Hi guys, welcome back. These are the specific videos about how to move feelings. I'm Rachel Kaplan. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and the creator and the host of the podcast, The Healing Feeling Shitshow, the author of Emotional Potty Training for Grown-Ups, which I need an agent for. Are you that person? Call me. Anyway, we're here to talk about how do you move fear in this video. And fear is a doozy. It's really intense. It's one of the hardest emotions to work with, and I'll tell you why. Let's start with the element though. Elementally, what do you think fear is? So far we have anger as the explosive fire. We have sadness as the downward, pooling, imploding water. What do we think fear is? And as we know from other videos, you can't talk. Fear! You feel shaky, you feel unstable, you feel moved by the winds of change, you feel you're being blown, right? So it's air. Fear is air. And so all of those situations of shakiness or winds or instability, winds of change we call it, they're all uncomfortable, and fear is definitely uncomfortable for most people. And I just want to do a quick shout out to the fact that it's even harder right now to deal with fear, because oftentimes when we're working with healing from a lifelong experience of not feeling okay or not feeling safe, a lot of the roots of those feelings are based in the past. They're based in when we were kids and we didn't have safe caregivers, or maybe a particularly traumatic experience we had that left over residue of terror or fear. But currently, we're living through a global pandemic. In case you're watching in the future, this thing in 2020 is happening called coronavirus. And so there is tons of uncertainty about our own safety, our physical safety, our health, our finances. It's just a really scary time for people. And it's not something that we can relate to as a threat from the far off past that isn't true. So it makes it even more important, given how much fear I imagine most of us are living with right now, that we learn how to work with this feeling. So on that note, let's just talk about it. What's hard about fear is that, well, first of all, it moves really fast, just like air moves really fast. And it can move in two basic directions. So it's bifurcated. The first direction is probably the way most people would think about fear, is like that frenetic, shaky, outward kind of energy. And one thing you can look at is when animals escape predatorial situations, when they escape danger, as soon as they're actually, in the clear, they shake until they move that energy out, and then they go about their business, not feeling bad for themselves, because they're animals and they're not as weird as we are. Also, if they die, if they lose that battle or that chase, and they get eaten, something happens. The flight, so the flight gets them to run, and then the freeze actually shuts their system down so that they don't experience their own death as being as painful. So we've got flight, fight, and freeze, right? So one of the energies, the flight and the fight, is like a frenetic, an outward thing, and it's kind of similar to anger in our world. And so for that type of feeling, you're gonna have a certain set of practices to release them. For the other side of it, which is more the freeze, we want to do more of a, and you might experience it as deer in headlights, or feeling paralyzed, feeling helpless and hopeless, feeling stuck in bed, blankets to your eyeballs, not wanting to face the world. Now this is more of a swaddling inward kind of experience, more like sadness. And so what we want to do is support it so that it can flow, hopefully through tears, but through that kind of contained experience. So the first question when you're feeling afraid is, do I feel more like I want to freak out and shake and twitch and be weird? Or do I feel more like I need to wrap myself in blankets, hide, and cry. And then once you get the instinct of what's more present for you, you follow those trajectories. So the frenetic work, you can do things like jumping, putting on weird music, and having erratic movements, just, shaking. You could do anger work, you could do exercise, you could go running. I love running when I'm feeling that way because you literally want to run. And then sadness, or the more helpless one, you want to do all the similar moves you did for sadness. So you can use music, if you can get out of bed to put your music on. You can definitely swaddle, pull in pillows. And you want to give yourself permission. You want to say, I'm allowed to be as afraid as I am. Or, of course I'm afraid. You want to kind of allow and support and use all those fancy skills of talking to yourself and holding yourself. Those are in the episodes about advanced skills for moving the feels. And you just support and you try to allow the fear to flow in whatever way you can. And of course, at the end of every emotional release, we want a reality test. So once you can't move any more fear, you want to come back to things that make you feel safe. Now, one interesting thing about fear is that it can be so uncomfortable for us and terrifying, literally, that in order to access it, sometimes we need to do some reality testing before we try to feel it and move it, and then also at the end. That's different than the other feelings. So it might look like saying to yourself, okay, I know that I have a roof over my head, I have these 3 family members and friends where if I ran out of money and I lost my job, they will not let me die homeless alone in a gutter, and I'm gonna be okay. Like whatever most basic grounded version of safety you can conjure for yourself, you might want to say that and then say, and since I know I'm basically okay, I'm going to now feel how unsafe I feel, how not okay I feel. And you go into the fear, move it as best you can, and also it will change. Like you might be in frenetic movement and then suddenly want to cry, or you might be crying and swaddled and helpless and paralyzed and suddenly feel like you need to shake or get out of bed and be like, fuck this, So just as we've said before, follow the movement, follow the current unfolding reality of that feeling and flush that shit out. And we'll see you next time with Shame.
This is the Healing Feeling Shitshow. Are you gonna have that feeling and let it go? There is no other way to feel whole. This is the Healing